those of you that stayed, and to those out there in Channel 26 TV land, thanks for watching. We do appreciate your feedback and comments. C1, Tribal History and Cultural Extended Core Instructional Materials Adoption. This came before CNI May 21 for consideration. Approval of this item will waive Board Policy 2015 while maintaining compliance with state law and approve the Instructional Material Committee's recommendation to adopt tribal history and culture instructional materials for all K-12 Seattle Public Schools classrooms. May I have the motion, please?
Happily. I move that the Seattle School Board waive Board Policy number 2015, which was designed to adopt instructional materials from commercial sources for the sole instance of expediting the adoption of the since time immemorial curriculum, thus fulfilling the intent of the legal mandate of RCW 28A.320.170, Tribal History and Culture, and I further move that the school board approve the Seattle Public Schools Instructional Materials Committee's recommendation to adopt, since time immemorial, as extended core instructional materials for all K-12 public schools classrooms.
Absolutely second.
Mr. Acting Chief Counsel, do we take the amendment now, or do we debate the underlying motion? Please give me some guidance here, sir.
At this point, you could have the presentation if there's any questions as far as the motion, and then see if then go to the amendment after that. If there's no discussion, go to the amendment, vote on it, and then
Back it out after we vote on the amendment, and then we go back to the main motion. Is that correct?
Correct. And if the amendment were to pass, you would want to add on the amended language to the main motion.
Thank you. Chief Academic Officer Diane DeBacker, the floor is yours, madam.
Well, you heard tonight in the comments by Superintendent Juneau about the importance of getting this approved. We appreciate the board for thinking outside of the box, knowing that Policy 2015 did not allow for since time immemorial to be approved. So thank you for doing that. With me tonight, the people who deserve all the credit, Gail Morris. So if you have questions about that, about the since time immemorial curriculum and what we are doing and what we plan to do, Gail stands to answer any questions for you.
Questions, comments, concerns from my colleagues?
This is
Director
on the
DeWolf?
C1, not amendment.
That is, no, we are not at the amendment.
Cool,
We
just
are
make-
at the main motion
making sure.
presently.
Thank you, and thank you for all of your work on this incredibly meaningful curriculum. I'm hoping that you can give us a brief overview or a little bit of a landscape of what it took to get here, and what kind of collaboration and just working together that it took from our tribes in our area, but just kind of give a little bit of history so we understand the impact and the importance of, really the profound importance of this curriculum.
Thank you. My name is Gail Morris. I'm Nuu-chah-nulth First Nation from the west coast of Vancouver Island. I am the Native American Education Program Manager, and I brought with me, and I'll let her introduce herself.
I'm Shanna Brown. I am the chief curriculum writer for Since Time Immemorial, and they just can't kick me out. I'm still there. I'm doing a training on Friday, the day after we get out of school. And I'm completely honored that we're taking this step.
Would you like to answer it?
All right. So your question was about the history. Well, it started in 2005 with the passage of House Bill 1495. At that particular time, the bill sponsor, John McCoy, and then Director of Office of Native Education at OSPI, Danny Hurtado, were negotiating. Originally, they wanted the curriculum to be required, and they had to compromise and say that they would accept strongly encouraged. And so throughout that, that's where the writing came in. And so we wrote and wrote and wrote and determined that we didn't want a one and done, as Director Burke was talking about. And so it is a curriculum that follows teachers September through June. It meets teachers where they are, and I'll just do this. And it allows for and insists on the partnership with the nearest federally recognized tribes. So we went through the process of training voluntarily until 2015 when Senate Bill, substitute Senate Bill 5433 came about and actually required. And so overjoyed, we thought, this means it's all going to happen, and we were naive, and so now we are kind of like in the second phase, taking a look at how do we make and hold school districts and teachers and principals accountable for not only including the curriculum, but to what degree, and also with what tribes are they partnering.
Thank you.
Well, and I would like to add that when it passed, Senate Bill 5433 passed in May of 2015, then Executive Director Shauna Heath was in curriculum assessment and instruction and determined that it would be a K-12 adoption for Seattle Public Schools. And then a year later, Dr. Kinoshita came in and really helped finesse that and worked hard with me to make sure that we adopt it in Seattle Public Schools. And here we are. I mean, we spent a lot of time in looking at funding. How are we going to fund teachers and substitutes to get the teachers to the training? Because it's really important. And we must always remember that this curriculum was written for non-native students to learn about our current history and what a government-to-government relationship looks like. So this is what we've been working on to this day, at this moment, at the mic, to get this to the teachers so that the students can understand the true histories of our 29 federally recognized tribes, and also to understand what those tribes contribute today in our economy, as well as the surrounding cities and towns that they contribute to. So for me, that's the landscape of where we're at. And when we adopt this, we can then work diligently with our middle schools this upcoming year, and then also to create a website that we can put all of our curriculum on, as well as the curriculum that we're working with next year, and looking at changing the verbiage on, like for instance, third grade CBAs around learning about the different tribes from all over. We're going to incorporate STI into the CCC so that they understand what that looks like. So it's extremely important, and we're so glad to be here.
I guess the last two things that I would like to add is teaching and being a teacher for almost 30 years. There has been a shift in Seattle schools in my classroom over the past 5 or 6 years, and that shift has been, I do not have to introduce the entire idea of tribes existing in Washington State, that my 7th graders and my 8th graders are coming into middle school with prior knowledge. And so we see it working in fits and starts. And then lastly, Gail said it was written for non-natives. I don't want us to think that it wasn't written for native students as well, because when, well, you know what happens when you see yourself in the curriculum, when you see yourself reflected, and when you see yourself reflected positively and not as a victim, it creates an immense power in the classroom and then beyond.
Director Burke?
I want to just add in, along with my gratitude for the work that allowed us to adopt this, because there's a this to adopt. It's been asked kind of, why have we not done this sooner? What's been the holdup? And I think that's a really important thing to drill down into a little bit, because there's been a desire, but yet the implementation hasn't been there. It's the law. Why are we not doing it? And I think the first consideration is, well, there's lots of things that are the law. If we followed every law to the letter, we're not funded for many of the things that are law. Fact. So what it does, it creates this system where we have to make judgments and say, okay, well, we're gonna do this to the letter, we're gonna kind of do this, and we're gonna not do that, even though we should be doing all of them. And I think that there was a level of gradual implementation that was sort of happening through osmosis and the energy of our amazing team that was deemed acceptable. And I say that in a non-judgmental way, but it was like, oh, this is the law, and it is being rolled out, and training is happening. Yeah, it's not happening quite fast enough. Yeah, we'd like more. But our policy around adoption covers course-level material. You can adopt material for an entire course. You can't really adopt part of material, and there wasn't a way to adopt material that wasn't from a publisher or reviewed by a committee. So there were just mismatches in the policy language, which were sort of creating a barrier. And it's like, oh, this is hard. Well, we're just going to keep doing kind of a slow rollout. So that's where I'm excited that the conversations among the board, the staff, came up with this method to say, let's not just adopt it, but let's adopt it and fund professional development. And I think the other aspect that I've learned from your team is that Seattle is a role model district for the state. And so by us finding a way, which is in compliance with state law, and adapting our policy or waiving the components of our policy, and formally adopting it and funding it, we are acting as a role model, and we're showing the rest of the districts in the state this is important. This is something that our kids value and our community values, and so I'm hugely in support.
Other comments, questions, concerns from my colleagues? Director Pinkham.
Thank you for the work that we're doing at this, and Gail, and when I first came on the board, yes, we had this, but then where was the training? Where our teachers do need this. We can't just put it up there and let their unfortunate stereotypes and perspectives kind of guide the material, because unfortunately that's what my daughter experienced, where they took it and okay, but I'll add my own beliefs and perspectives. So I'm glad that we were able to get the training going, and hopefully we can get everyone, because it sounds like there's the middle school or elementary, good turnout, but once we go up higher grades, the turnout kind of dropped off, and hopefully we can get more to turn out and learn that, yes, this may have been written for as, to help the non-Indians learn the tribal histories here, but also to have someone that's familiar with the tribal history to, okay, this is what it means, this is what it explains, because we can't just necessarily read by books. We need other people to help explain as well. So I thank you for that.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? I'll go. It's my personal belief, based on my training and over 3 decades of working in the legal field, that state law is not trumped by policy. And I'm sorry that it took us this long to get here. It's also my personal belief that we follow the money. And we have not funded professional development. And I'm distressed by that, even ashamed by that. And I am pleased. It's my understanding that our STAR Mentor teachers have now taken the STI training. Yes. Thank you for all the good folks that made that happen. Yes. Our actions speak very loudly. One of the first things we did on this board, when I came aboard 4 years ago, is we changed your darn forms. And it was not that big a deal, but they were stuck for years in terms of identification. And again, identification means money. Yes. And that matters. All those disagreements aside, I could not be more thrilled to see this institutionalized in our culture as a priority. It's about darn time. I believe there is an amendment. Mr. Pinkham, did you wish to read that amendment, and then we will debate that? If it gets a second.
I move the school board amend the motion on the tribal history and cultural extended core instructional materials adoption to include the following sentence as a final paragraph. I further move that Resolution 2016-17-1, memorialize support of treaty rights and benefits of the Duwamish Nation, be distributed with and included as part of the proposed instructional materials adoption.
Is there a second to the amendment?
I will second that.
Okay. Mr. Acting Chief Counsel, can you come to the podium, please? Can you create a record based on your personal legal advice to us that was distributed to the board yesterday as to how this would affect what we are doing? Please.
I think that it might be best to go into executive session, and I could discuss that as it could pertain to legal matters and pending litigation.
Let's be really clear here because we're creating a record. Are you telling me that there is pending litigation that would be affected by this amendment for the Seattle School District, not for federal recognition, not for federal recognition of tribes and how it relates to state law?
I believe that it could potentially create a legal situation for the district, and I would like to discuss that under attorney-client privilege.
Well, then this board will adjourn to the boardroom for a quick 5-minute executive session for legal advice by our counsel. Thank you. And if it takes longer than 5 minutes, we'll come back out and tell you how much longer it may take. Thank you.
Very good.
I'm sorry, did I get you? Did I run over your foot? No.